They don't fear your silence. They don't fear your pain. They don't even fear your struggle. They fear your rise. Because once you rise, really rise, everything around you changes. The illusions break. The lies collapse. The power structures tremble. And the darkness that once fed off your confusion suddenly has no place left to hide. You see, the world doesn't truly fear monsters. It fears the one who's no longer afraid of them. From the moment you were born, something about you stood out. You didn't follow the script. You didn't fit their systems. You asked questions that made people uncomfortable. You noticed things others ignored. You were quiet in the ways that spoke volumes, loud in the ways that exposed falsehoods. And that made you dangerous, not because you were violent, but because you were awake. They could sense it, that one day you'd remember who you really are. And when that happened, they knew they'd lose control over you. So they tried to break you early. Through family, through school, through relationships, through guilt, through shame, through trauma. Not to destroy you entirely, but just enough to make you doubt yourself. Just enough to keep your wings clipped. Just enough to make you question your light. Because darkness doesn't need to eliminate the light. It only needs to convince the light it's not shining. And they almost had you. You almost bought into the lies that you were too much or not enough. That you were broken. That you didn't belong. That your difference was a curse, not a calling. That the world would never see your worth. But something inside of you refused to die. Even at your lowest. Even in the pits of despair. Even when no one clapped for you. No one saw you. No one believed in you. You kept going. That inner flame, even flickering, refused to be extinguished. That's what terrifies them. Because they know people like you don't stay down forever. When you rise, you don't just rise for yourself. You rise for everyone watching. You rise for those still stuck. You rise and become a mirror, showing others what's possible. And once that happens, the system loses its grip. That's why they try to distract you with drama, keep you entangled in fear, flood your mind with noise. Because if you ever sit still long enough, if you ever remember who you are, the entire game is over. You're not here to play small. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't born to numb your truth to make others feel safe in their delusions. You were born to set things in motion, to shatter generational cycles, to shift atmospheres just by walking into the room. You are the one they hoped would stay asleep. But you're waking up. You're remembering that the pain had purpose, that the suffering had meaning, that every closed door was divine preparation, that every betrayal was protection, that every loss made you stronger, not weaker. And now, your rise is inevitable. But here's what they don't want you to know. Your rise isn't loud. It's not about revenge. It's not about proving anyone wrong. It's not about validation or applause or public displays of success. Your rise is silent power. It's self-mastery. It's walking away without explanation. It's healing in private and returning with clarity they never expected. It's becoming so whole, so aligned, so untouchable, that no weapon formed against you can prosper because you no longer exist on the same frequency. That's what makes them fear you. Because you're not just changing your life, you're changing the blueprint. You're breaking curses without even speaking about it. You're choosing peace over chaos. You're no longer triggered by the games they used to play. You're no longer available for manipulation, guilt, or gaslighting. You've become unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. That's the rise they dread. Not the rise that looks good on social media. The rise that makes you spiritually untouchable. The rise that means you'll no longer be controlled, no longer be silenced, no longer be afraid of your own power. Because when a soul like yours rises, darkness no longer has a hiding place. Not in your family, not in your bloodline, not in your community, not in this world. You become a lighthouse, and lighthouses don't chase ships. They stand still and shine. even in the storm, and the lost find their way. You are that lighthouse now. And yes, they will try harder now that you're rising. They'll send old temptations, old distractions, old patterns, all dressed up in new packaging. They'll try to bait you back into confusion, chaos, fear, but you've seen too much now. You've healed too much now. You've outgrown too much now. You no longer need to explain your evolution. You no longer need their approval. Your spirit is moving in divine rhythm. And the ones meant for you will rise with you, not against you. So when the attacks come, smile. When the pressure builds, rise higher. When the enemy throws shadows, become the sun. They don't fear what you've done. They fear what you're about to do. And no matter how hard they try, they can't stop what's already been set in motion. You were born for this, and your rise has just begun. They hoped you'd forget your gifts, forget your calling, forget your inner fire. But here you are, remembering everything. Every time they tried to break you, they were unknowingly building you. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every heartbreak widened your compassion. Every failure forged your character. You didn't just survive the storm, you became it. And now you walk differently. You speak differently. You see differently. Not because you learned more from books, but because you learned through fire. You didn't read about transformation. You lived it. And because of that, you carry a frequency that can't be faked. That's what terrifies them. Because this world is full of noise, but you've found your signal. It's full of masks, but you've chosen authenticity. While others conform, you confront. While others follow, you feel. And while others chase the world, you're walking with the divine. You were never meant to fit in. You were designed to stand out. Not for attention, but for alignment. Because chosen ones don't follow trends. They follow truth. And truth, by its very nature, disrupts. It shakes foundations. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces a mirror in front of everything fake and says, look closer. That's why they fear your rise, because your rise exposes their lies. And let's be honest, not everyone will clap for you. Some will pretend not to see your glow. Some will gossip in hopes it dims your light. Some will distance themselves because they no longer have access to the version of you they once controlled. Let them. Your elevation requires separation. You're not losing them. You're locating yourself. Because when you rise, you can't carry what was meant to stay below. Not every friend, not every habit, not every identity. And that's okay. You're not arrogant. You're ascending. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not changing for applause. You're changing because your soul demanded it. And the people who fear your rise, deep down, they know they were never built for the altitude you're stepping into. But you were. Even when you doubted. Even when you stumbled. Even when you cried at 3 a.m. wondering why your path felt so lonely, the truth never left you. You were built for this. They can feel it in your silence now. They can sense it in your presence. That something has shifted. That the version of you who tolerated less than, who questioned their worth, who over-explained their heart, is gone. In their place stands someone reborn, refined, relentless, not bitter, better, not broken, blessed, not angry, anointed. And they don't know how to deal with that. Because people expect you to rise with a bang. But real growth is quiet. It happens when no one's watching. When you choose healing over habits, peace over patterns, God over gossip, stillness over striving. That's where your rise began, in the moments no one celebrated. When you chose to keep going when quitting felt easier. When you forgave even when you never received an apology. When you let go, not because it was fair, but because it was freeing. And now, the world feels your shift. Doors that were once locked are cracking open. Opportunities are aligning without effort. People are being drawn to your energy, not because you're performing, but because you're radiating. That's spiritual power. And it cannot be faked, bought, copied, or contained. They fear your rise because they can't define it. You're not who you used to be, and they can't predict what comes next. That makes you dangerous in a world built on control. You're not reacting from pain. You're responding from purpose. You're not chasing. You're attracting. You're not convincing. You're conquering. But not with swords, with spirit. Not with ego, with essence. Not with force, but with faith. Because when a chosen one rises, they don't just elevate their life. They ignite others. You become a signal for the silent warriors. You awaken something ancient in the souls who've been asleep too long. You become the proof that healing is real. That growth is possible. That destiny is undeniable. And that's what they fear most. That you'll become so aligned, so whole, so powerful, that the old systems won't work anymore. That fear will fall flat. That manipulation will backfire. That division will lose its grip. Because you're no longer reactive. You're revelatory. You're not chasing light. You are the light. And now that you know it, nothing can stop you. Not rejection. Not betrayal. Not even spiritual warfare.